All right, boys and girls, let's get into the day that has been around the NFL, Week 14. And we begin in Minnesota, where Kirk Cousins was a complete dud against his former team, the Vikings, as Minnesota runs and hides from the Falcons. I have been so tired of the Kirk Cousins truthers, even up until the last few weeks. But really coming into the season, they bothered me. They really bothered me. Because I felt like they were trying to convince us all of something that we all knew better. Kirk Cousins was a productive quarterback in Minnesota, but he was not getting the short end of the stick in terms of respect. And I just resented that narrative from certain media members or fans that somehow those of us who knew he had a ceiling, a very clear ceiling of whether you could win big with him or not, knew what we were seeing. And we were not seeing Kirk Cousins be a playoff caliber winner. We weren't seeing him in big spots, one-on-one, mano-a-mano duels against big quarterbacks in prime time. We knew the numbers were nice. The yards and touchdowns were fine. But that if you expected to win a Super Bowl, Kirk Cousins wasn't your man, and everything got for some reason, all types of convoluted. And I think it's because Kirk Cousins did a really good job of marketing himself, which is the great irony here. That Kirk Cousins actually, even though he's kind of a quiet, very non-flamboyant, very kind of low-key type of dude, actually marketed himself brilliantly and made people believe that by being dorky, he was cool, by being self-aware as being a nerd or a dad, that he actually had swag, but that was never true. He's a really nice guy, and I've said this for years. I would absolutely trust Kirk Cousins when I was away on vacation to bring in my mail, to water my plants, to feed my pets. I would not trust him to win a big game. And because he wore that chain, because he leaned into the dad thing, because Cousins always did a really friendly, nice interview, media guys started lapdogging him, and it never made any sense. Because they were trying to convince us that we were wrong. No. I rejected that principle before, I rejected it again, and you saw it today. Now, did the Vikings fans have to boo Cousins? I mean, he never did anything wrong to them. They didn't want him anymore in Minnesota. At least out of that rate, the Falcons did. He had every right to leave. I don't know if we needed to boo the guy, but we saw today why the Vikings made the right choice in saying we're not going to keep mortgaging the farm for a guy that can't win big for us. So let's restart the clock and draft a guy. They went with J.J. McCarthy. They signed Sam Darnold to a short-term deal so he can be the guy to keep the seat warm for J.J., and it's proved to pay massive dividends. And when you see what Sam Darnold is doing this year with Minnesota, is it that obvious that actually it was not Kirk Cousins, it was the system, and perhaps the wide receiver, or as Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson go off today. So the Vikings end up looking brilliant because they're better without Kirk Cousins. For the Atlanta Falcons, again, sold a bill of goods that Cousins was the guy to unlock all the potential of this offense, and that somehow that was the last ingredient they needed in the ATL for Kyle Pitts and Drake London and Bijan Robinson to finally show out what they could do. And what we see is that ain't the case either. As over the last month, Cousins has been a complete dud, a complete drip, a complete gag. And for all of us who said, what are you doing drafting Michael Penix in April? Boy, does that look smart. Because would you want right now to be tethered to Kirk Cousins for the next 2, 3, 4 years without a backup plan? Man, there was nothing more alarming, jarring than watching today as the Vikings cruised and the Falcons snoozed, and the quarterbacks between them looked a lot different. A lot different, did they not? And for the Atlanta Falcons, if we have to see them in the playoffs, we're all wearing nightmare for Christmas, right? I mean, does anybody need to see the Falcons in the postseason hosting a playoff game? The answer is no. We know how that's going to end. So please, Tampa Bay, we beg of you as an American football public, can you please win this division? Because none of us needs to see that matchup today, the Vikings or the Packers going to Atlanta and trucking the Falcons wild card Saturday. Believe me, you'll thank us later.